In February 1978, a 23-year-old college student named Steven Kubacki went missing near Lake Michigan. Search teams found his footprints in the snow, leading onto a frozen lake, then suddenly stopping. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken ice, no body. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. For 15 months, there was nothing. His family was devastated. Authorities declared him dead, assuming he had drowned. But then, in May 1979, something impossible happened. Steven Kubacki came back. He was found over 700 miles away, wearing different clothes, carrying a bag of strange maps. With no memory of where he had been or how he got there, to this day, he refuses to talk about it. What really happened to Steven Kubacki? On February 20th, 1978, Steven Kubacki, a 23-year-old college student, set out on a solo cross-country skiing trip near the shores of Lake Michigan. He was an experienced outdoorsman, familiar with the terrain, and had planned his trip carefully. The last time anyone saw him, he was heading toward the edge of the lake, moving along the snowy trails near Holland, Michigan. The next day, when he failed to return, his friends and family grew concerned. A search team was quickly assembled to retrace his path. When rescuers followed his trail, they found his ski tracks leading toward the lake. Then, about 200 yards from the shore, they found something chilling, his footprints in the snow. But they just stopped. There were no return tracks, no sign of a fall, no struggle. It was as if he had walked out onto the frozen lake and simply disappeared. His backpack and skis were never found. There was no evidence of broken ice, no blood, no clues. The search teams expanded their efforts, combing the lake and the surrounding forests, but nothing turned up. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. For weeks, search teams combed the frozen landscape around Lake Michigan, hoping to find any trace of Steven Kubacki. Helicopters flew over the area, while volunteers and rescue dogs scoured the snow-covered terrain. But despite an intensive search, there was nothing. Authorities considered every possibility. Had he fallen through the ice? But there were no cracks, no broken ice, nothing to suggest he had drowned. Had he gotten lost and frozen to death? But then, where was the body? As time passed, search efforts slowed down and hope faded. With no new leads, no evidence, and no explanation, the case went cold. After a year of silence, Steven Kubacki was officially declared dead. His family mourned his loss, believing they would never know what had really happened. But then, in May 1979, everything changed. On May 5, 1979, 15 months after he vanished, Steven Kubacki woke up in a field. He was lying on the ground in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, more than 700 miles from where he disappeared. He was wearing different clothes than the ones he had on when he went missing. Next to him was a strange bag filled with maps and travel guides. He felt completely fine. No signs of starvation, no frostbite, no injuries. But there was one thing that made this even more unsettling. He had no memory of where he had been. Confused and disoriented, he made his way to a nearby town and contacted his family. When they saw him, they were in shock. He was alive. But when they started asking questions, where had he been? How did he survive? What happened to him? He had no answers. To this day, he has never explained what happened during those 15 months. After Steven Kubacki's shocking return, his family was overwhelmed with emotions, relief, confusion, and disbelief. They had spent over a year mourning him, convinced he was gone forever. Now, he was standing in front of them, alive, but offering no answers. Local news outlets quickly picked up the story. A man vanishing for 15 months, only to reappear 700 miles away with no memory. It was the kind of mystery that should have made national headlines. But strangely, Kubacki avoided the media completely. Unlike most missing people who return, he didn't seek attention, didn't share his story, and didn't seem interested in solving what had happened. Even more unsettling was how little effort authorities put into investigating his disappearance. There were no official follow-ups, no extended searches, and no deep medical tests to determine what happened to him. It was as if the case was closed the moment he came back. Kubacki himself seemed completely unfazed by the missing time. He never attempted hypnosis, therapy, or memory recovery techniques, all of which are common for people with memory gaps. It was as if he had moved on without question. Instead of seeking answers, Kubacki returned to school, earned a degree in psychology, and later wrote books about consciousness and the human mind. Some believe that if anyone knows what really happened to him, it's Steven Kubacki himself, but to this day, he refuses to talk about it. What's even stranger is how quickly the story disappeared. There were no in-depth investigations, no follow-ups, no major media coverage after his return. While similar cases have been turned into books and documentaries, Kubacki's case remains largely forgotten, buried under decades of speculation. Did Kubacki himself intentionally suppress the truth? Or was there a larger force at play, one that didn't want the world asking too many questions? With no logical explanation for his disappearance, theories about Steven Kubacki's lost 15 months have ranged from scientific to supernatural. Some make sense, others sound like something out of a science fiction movie, but all of them have one thing in common: none can be proven. One of the most common theories is that Steven suffered from dissociative fugue, a rare psychological condition where a person unexpectedly loses their identity, travels far from home, and later has no memory of the event. Some believe he may have collapsed under stress, wandered across the country in a dissociative state, and only snapped out of it months later. But that theory has one major flaw: his behavior after returning. Most people with dissociative fugue show signs of confusion, distress, or a struggle to regain their past life. Kubacki didn't. He came back, acted normal, and never questioned what happened. Then there are the more bizarre theories. Some believe Kubacki may have been a victim of government experimentation. The fact that he refused to speak about his disappearance has led to speculation that he was subjected to classified mind control experiments, abductions, or secret tests. The 1970s were the height of MK Ultra, a real government program that experimented with psychological manipulation. Could Kubacki have been an unknowing test subject? And then there's the most unsettling theory, the Michigan Triangle. The area where he vanished, near Lake Michigan, is part of a mysterious region known as the Michigan Triangle, an area linked to plane crashes, shipwrecks, and unexplained disappearances. Some believe Kubacki somehow slipped into another dimension or timeline, only to return later with no memory of his time there. But the biggest mystery of all, Steven Kubacki himself. If something strange really did happen to him, why doesn't he want to talk about it? More than 47 years later, the case of Steven Kubacki's disappearance and return remains one of the strangest missing person cases in history. Unlike most mysteries, there are no solid leads, no official explanations, and no answers, only theories. Did he suffer from a psychological break, unknowingly traveling for over a year before snapping back to reality? Was he the subject of a secret government experiment, forced to keep quiet? Or did he experience something even more unexplainable, something he refuses to share? To this day, Steven Kubacki has never spoken publicly about what happened. He has never tried to recover his lost memories. And perhaps most unsettling of all, he seems completely fine with never knowing the truth. What do you think happened to Steven Kubacki? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this mystery, check out our last video about a bizarre CIA illness that no one can explain. Click here to watch. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos that prove what happens when logic fails.